Jesus was from India, and 2.4 billion Christians have been following an Indian guru since the last 2,000 years. That's what people on the internet are saying. A 14.5-foot linen cloth bearing the faint image of a crucified man, believed by millions to be the actual burial cloth of Jesus Christ. It's the most studied artifact in human history. And in 2026, a geneticist named Gianni Barcaccia at the University of Padova pulled DNA from the shroud and found that nearly 40% of the human DNA traces back to India. The internet connected this to an old, controversial theory that Jesus himself traveled to India during the 18 years the Bible doesn't account for. But the shroud itself is wrapped in mystery. No one can fully agree where it came from, how old it is, or how the image was formed. So what's the truth? Let's go deeper. The shroud is a linen cloth, about 4.4 meters long, bearing two faint brownish images, the front and back of a man. Gaunt, sunken-eyed, thorn marks on the head, lash marks across the back, a wound in the side, puncture wounds in the wrists and feet. Every detail consistent with Roman crucifixion. It's been locked inside the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin since 1578, behind bulletproof glass and round-the-clock security. And here's the thing about the image. No one can explain it. No pigment, no paint, no dye, nothing. The image exists only on the topmost layer of the fibers, so impossibly thin that no known substance or process can replicate it. The first definite historical record of the shroud appears in 1354 in a small church in Lirey, France. A knight named Geoffroy de Charny presented it and said, "This is the burial cloth of Jesus Christ." Now in 1988, the Vatican let 3 labs, Oxford, Zurich, Arizona, carbon dated. All 3 came back with the same answer. The cloth was made between 1260 and 1390. But here's the problem. A chemist at Los Alamos named Raymond Rogers looked at what they actually tested and found that the sample came from a repaired corner. So basically, they dated a patch. Then in 2022, an Italian team used a newer technique, wide-angle X-ray scattering, to measure the degradation of the linen itself. They compared it with fabric from the siege of Masada, dated to the 1st century. The result? Fully compatible, 2,000 years old. But here's where things get wild. Barcaccia's team analyzed DNA from samples collected off the shroud going back to 1978. They found genetic material from humans, plant species, and animals. 40% of human DNA came from Indian haplogroups. Now this connects to the biblical gap, the lost years. The Gospels record Jesus' life until age 12, then jump to about age 30. 18 years, gone, no explanation. In 1894, a Russian adventurer named Nicholas Notovich claimed he'd visited a monastery in Ladakh in northern India, and that monks read him an ancient Tibetan manuscript describing how Jesus, called Isa, traveled east as a teenager, studied the Vedas with Hindu Brahmins, learned Buddhism from monks, and eventually returned to Judea to begin his ministry. Over the next century, a disciple of Ramakrishna, a Russian painter, a German author, they all claim to have found confirmation. A tomb in Srinagar, Kashmir, supposedly houses Uz Asaf, who some identify as Jesus. During a dialogue with a Yogananda disciple, the head of Puri Temple in India confirmed that he had personally examined ancient documents in the Puri Jagannath Temple archives, which corroborate the narrative of Jesus visiting India. According to these records, Jesus, referred to as Isha in these texts, resided for a time within the Jagannath Temple itself, and upon his return to his native region, shared the teachings that would later form the foundation of Christianity. So what's the truth? Here's where I land. The DNA on the shroud is far more easily explained by ancient trade routes and centuries of handling than by Jesus' personal travel itinerary. The Shroud of Turin has survived 700 years of investigation, from medieval bishops to 21st century genomics labs, and it still refuses to give a straight answer. Maybe that's the point. The new Indian DNA finding has added another layer to the mystery, but at the end of the day, faith doesn't depend on a piece of cloth. Whether the shroud is a 2,000-year-old relic or a medieval masterpiece, its power lies in what it represents and what it makes people feel. What do you think? Is there a connection between Jesus and India? Let me know in the comments.